Okay, welcome to the Captivating Stage and Educational Hypnosis webinar. I'm your host, Chris Johnson. Before I get started, a couple of household or housekeeping notes to make mention of. I'm currently recording this in Los Angeles, California. I'm on the road doing some gigs, and the hotel I'm actually recording this in between gigs is actually being renovated. So if you hear some banging around and tools and so forth, I do apologize in advance, but I want to get this webinar up and running because I had an educational, an advertising deadline to meet. Excuse me. So, a little bit about myself. My name is Chris Johnson. Some of you watching this may be familiar with some of my products. I have made offerings to the magic community and programs such as booking school assembly programs, Murder by Magic, my corporate magic show, and a lot of other different things. I've been performing magic and mentalism professionally for about 20 years. 11 years ago, I went full-time. In other words, no day job, nothing to back me up. Making a living doing magic and performing has been my sole means of income for 11 years. I've been my own boss for 11 years. And it's been a lot of fun. And each year, the last 7 or 8 years, I've made in excess of $100,000, a six-figure income. And it's been fantastic being my own boss. I would never trade it for anything. I went full-time in 2003, not long after I got married. And a couple of years after I'd been full-time for a couple of years, I noticed that I was already starting to get burned out. I mean, I was 2 years as a full-timer, but I've been performing for years and years and years before that professionally, making a lot of money. Just didn't have the courage to make the jump. And I noticed that with magic, you're hauling around a lot of props, and there's a lot of angles to worry about, and prop upkeep, and it can really wear on you. And a lot of the folks that I talk to, so many of us got into magic because we had the dream of, depending on what generation you're from, of being the next David Copperfield or Doug Henning or God help us, Chris Angel. Most of us are just out there, we're just technicians out there making a living, whether it's birthday parties or daycares or school assembly programs or colleges or trade shows or corporate holiday parties or whatever. Most of us are not superstars. We're just, people, men and women out there, making a living doing this stuff. And I noticed that as I was, getting further and further into my full-time performing career, I noticed that I really did not enjoy certain markets anymore. I really didn't enjoy, a lot of the lower-paying gigs. I mean, a lot of the people I talked to in the game, it was like a source of pride doing 500 shows a year or so. And it was like the more shows you did, the better they felt about themselves. And that's fine for them. But for me, it was about maximizing the amount of money per gig and minimizing the amount of time being away. The kind of shows I enjoy doing the most are school assembly programs and some corporate programs with certain reservations. And for whatever reason, for a lot of different things, my business evolved that I was traveling a lot. I get like $1,000 to $2,000 a gig, but I'd have to travel for it. So being on the road wears you out quite a bit. So I began looking for other ways to make money, but minimizing my work, getting more money per gig, that kind of thing. And in 2005, a friend of mine from Texas sent me a videotape of his stage hypnosis show, and I was amazed by it. I mean, first of all, I'd never seen it before, and it was absolutely amazing, and it was a real thing. And then we're going to talk more about stage hypnosis and how it's a real thing and not play acting as we get further into this webinar. But it was a transformational experience for me, and I started doing stage hypnosis shows for really good money. And I still to this day do a lot of stage hypnosis shows, and I'm in the middle, as I'm recording this in 2015, I'm in the middle of transitioning out of full-time performing. Just being on the road too much, it just wears me out, and I want to be home with my wife and my dogs, and I'm doing a lot more clinical hypnosis. But that's another story for another day. So let's get into this. A little bit of background about me. Now you understand I'm based in Niagara Falls, New York. I've been to 34 countries across the country. And like I said, as I'm recording this, I'm in Los Angeles, California, doing some gigs for the week. I've been to different parts of Canada, so I'm really well-traveled. I'm not a cruise ship guy like a lot of people out there, but I've still traveled quite a bit. So let's get into this. So what would happen if, as a magician, you could walk into a gig and wow an audience of 20 to 2,000 people with no props or angle concerns? And that's what a stage hypnosis show allows you to do. It's amazing. But let's talk about what is usually done. It's no secret that many magicians, they struggle in certain environments because of angle considerations. I can remember many times I'd go to do a birthday party or a private event or a Cub Scout event or something, and they'd have me in some party center or Chuck E. Cheese, and there's mirrors all around me. And I'm like, oh, and they're just, you know, a lot of the props and everything, you go out there preparing to have your back against a wall, and there's like angle considerations to worry about, and kids running around. You know, and a lot of these gigs you go to are just not conducive for magic shows. You've got to make a lot of compromises in how the kind of show that you want to do. Also, many magicians have a hard time breaking into certain markets because of the audience's jaded nature. And what I mean by that, certain markets, and I'm talking for the purpose of this webinar, specifically high schools, colleges, and certain corporate audiences, they just have a jaded nature toward magic. Not to say you can't perform magic successfully for them. You know, no. I've been doing that for many years. But it's more of an uphill battle. And when you've been in the game for as long as I have, you begin to look for ways to making your life a little bit easier. Then many magicians, they avoid these markets and groups because they're tough audiences. Again, talking about teenagers and colleges and high schools, you know, they've seen Chris Angel and David Blaine and those guys on TV, and they do those things on TV that they can't replicate, you know, in a day-to-day gig. In fact, I remember a story I heard years and years ago that David Blaine was booked for a corporate job, and he's a TV star, so he got paid a good fee for it. I heard it was about $50,000. And he gets there, and he couldn't do the gig, or he couldn't do the levitation he did on stage, or excuse me, he couldn't do the street levitation that he did on stage or on TV, or whatever. And his client was really upset that he couldn't do. He wanted to do exactly what he did on TV, right there live in this corporate setting on stage. I kept on getting tongue-tied there, and so Blaine couldn't do it, and the client was very upset by it. So people very often in a lot of these markets, they have like a jaded view of magic. You know, a corporate. I've been doing corporate jobs for years, and I can win them over and everything. But the initial impression is, oh, a magician, he's for the kids. You know, colleges, they're expecting you know, something a little bit more biting, or a little bit more edgy, or a little bit more, you know, gruesome or gory or bizarre or something like that. And there's certain performers out there doing a great job doing those kind of gigs, but it takes a special kind of performer to really connect with those kind of audiences. So a lot of us out there, we begin avoiding certain markets and certain groups because they're tough audiences. And also, many magicians are leaving money on the table because they can't fly to distant gigs because of the hassle of traveling with props. I remember a number of years ago, the mentalist Banachek, the world-famous Banachek, came to the Buffalo, New York area near where I live to do a lecture. And in between sets, intermission, I was able to talk to him, and we both reminisced about the fact that it seems like very often TSA it has it in for us, and they deliberately break our props. And I told him a story about how when I was flying, I had $800 worth of props destroyed by Delta Airlines, and I had a hard shell Samsonite suitcase. And there was a hole in it, punched from the outside in, and props were damaged, and it was just a mess, and they denied my claims. And so flying with gigs, or flying with your props is very problematic. Even if you're a pack flat, play big kind of guy, there's certain props like knives and you know, things like that that you can't travel with your checked bags, or excuse me, with your carry-on bags. As a result, you have to check them. So we have all these different considerations. And with all that, you know, in mind, many magicians, they limit themselves about the kind of gigs that they can do, whether it's because of fear or whatever the case may be. So here's what is tried. Many magicians try to develop, as I alluded to a moment ago, the pack flat, play big shows to make travel and setup easier. That's what they try to do. And with more elaborate movie and theatrical productions, this small show, big audience mentality is tough to pull off in certain markets. And I know those of you listening, you know, you've seen Dan Harlan and Bill Abbott, you know, talk about the whole mindset of the pack flat, play big, and that works for a lot of different gigs. But as a guy who's been doing, you know, 200 or so shows a year, most of them in school assembly programs and corporate jobs, I can tell you that a briefcase show or a tiny show doesn't play well to 500 kids in an auditorium. In my venues, it's a lot about production value. You know, my wife and I, we go to a lot of theatrical productions. We've gone to see Wicked. We've gone to see Wizard of Oz. We've gone to see Beauty and the Beast on stage. And these productions are really elaborate. Then you go to the movies for like $10, $12. You're transported to other universes and seeing all these aliens and things. Over the summer, my wife and I, we went to see Guardians of the Galaxy, and we just loved it. And the best example I can compare it to is that it's a Star Wars type movie for this generation. So the things that we're doing in movies and on stage were things that we couldn't do in movies or on stage decades ago. So things have changed. And again, I know a lot of guys out there are doing the pack flat, play big shows, but you know, in my venues, and again, I'm talking about school assembly programs and corporate jobs, when you've got like 300-400 people in there, and these venues, cafeterias and school assemblies, gymnasiums, auditoriums, there's lighting considerations, and when you see a pack, flat, play big show like somebody on a cruise ship, for example, like my friend Paul Romhaney or Scott Alexander or folks like that, the lighting is under their control. The seating is such that there's not a bad seat in the house. And my wife and I, we took a cruise in Princess Cruises a couple of years ago to Alaska, and we saw a lot of shows on the stage on the cruise ship, and there's not a bad seat in the house, 1,000 people. But in a school auditorium, you walk into the briefcase, and visibility just because it gets to be a big deal. And what a lot of people don't understand is, when you're in a school setting, again, whether it's high school, elementary, middle school, or even colleges, a lot of the stuff, it comes down to like an activities fee, a form of fundraising if it were for colleges. And, PTA and PTO fundraisers for elementary and high schools, they're doing a lot of work to generate the fees to bring in performances and school assembly presenters and such. If you walk into the briefcase, you're charging like $1,000 to $1,200 to $1,400 to $3,000 like I charge for school assembly programs. They expect to see some production value. They want to be wowed a little bit. So, and then in a corporate setting, for a holiday party, they start drinking. You're in a hotel banquet area, and the lighting is usually subdued. People are sitting in tables of rounds, round tables of 8, and the lighting is not the best. And if you have a stage at all, it's usually like a rickety riser. And a lot of the times, it's just not conducive to a pack, flat, play big show. Not saying it can't be done. I've done it. It's just difficult. It's just a lot of considerations. People like a lot of production value nowadays. So as a result, to compensate for a lack of ability to get these larger audiences and or high-paying gigs, such as not being able, or having the money or the tools or the confidence to try to get a cruise ship show, or a Vegas show, or school assembly programs, or some of these larger elaborate corporate events, what winds up happening is many magicians do a massive amount of shows, 500 or more, to make more money with a higher number of gigs. I remember years and years ago when I was first going into magic full time, I trained under daycare expert Dave Risley, and he's one of those 500 a year show guys. And I had some friends from Texas, another gentleman, and he, his was like, 500-600 shows a year, 100 to 125 library shows in the summer. And it's a great way to make a living. You're your own boss. You're in control of your own destiny. Just my mentality is it wears me out. The most shows I ever did when I was keeping track of shows was 241 shows in 1 year, and it totally wore me out. And after that year, I quit keeping track of how many shows I did. I became more concentrated on the amount of dollars I could get per gig, and that was much more important to me. These days I estimate I'm between 175 and 200 shows a year. I don't think I've hit 241 again, nor do I want to. That's just my choice. Not saying it's the only choice. It's just the choice for me. I want to do a higher paying gig for a and less shows per year. I have more time at home, more time to relax, more time to pursue other hobbies and other interests. So moving right along. So here's why these things don't work. As I alluded to, burnout, doing 250 plus shows a year, to say nothing of 500 shows, it really wears you out fast. Also, as I said a moment ago, the pack flat mentality leads to a perception of the shows of lower quality. And I've seen Bill Abbott perform. I've seen Dan Harlan perform, and they're absolutely brilliant. But in the day-to-day world, when you're dealing with clients, there are going to be times, not all, of course, but there are going to be times where a small briefcase show is perceived, not reality, but perceived by certain people, that the show is of lower quality. It's unfortunate, but it's just how it is. And additionally, certain markets are so jaded that they're often tough to engage fully. And as I said before, if you're doing a high school show, you got to be really sharp to do a magic show for high school teens. And I've done it. I've had a lot of fun doing it. But there are easier things to do. College, same thing. They want the edgy stuff. They want the David Blaine, the Chris Angel stuff that you can't do in a day-to-day setting. The stuff that Chris Angel does on TV is stuff that he can't replicate in day-to-day, everyday settings for his shows. In fact, as I recall, I remember reading reports that his live show, wherever his live show was, I don't even remember because I'm not a big Chris Angel fan. He was getting low reviews because he wasn't doing the same stuff he did on TV. He was doing traditional stuff like a Dove Act and that kind of stuff, and people were coming down on him because he wasn't doing the same kind of edgy stuff he was doing on TV. So those are some of the reasons why this stuff kind of works and doesn't work. So now here's how stage hypnosis can help you. First of all, you get credibility with these markets because it's real. Now, what I'm going to say may ruffle some feathers, but I love magic. I have a deep appreciation for magic. I go to YouTube. I watch magic shows. I go out and I buy more tricks, and I do all the things that I do because I love magic. I have a deep love of magic. But the reality of it is, certain people, we call them illusions. We use a certain verbiage and everything. Certain people, it's like, oh, it's a magic trick. And they're immediately trying to figure it out, or they dismiss it. There's some kind of a trick. And and they're jaded. It becomes an intellectual puzzle. College kids, high school kids, corporate groups. Especially if corporate people, they've been drinking. It's magic. They may enjoy it. If you've got a good script and you're entertaining, you pick good effects and routines and everything, you can win them over. But it's an uphill battle, and I've done it. I've done it successfully. There is an easier way. Stage hypnosis, it's real. I'm not talking about play acting. I'm not talking about like the Doc Hilford manuscript he put out a while ago when he's talking about play acting and getting people to play along and doing play acting hypnosis. I'm talking about the real thing. So people are fascinated by this stuff. You tell people, I guarantee you walk up to a teenager, a college booker, and or a corporate event planner, and you tell them you're a hypnotist versus a magician, you're going to get a much different response. It's because people don't understand hypnosis. They've seen things on TV. They've seen the Manchurian Candidate. They know all the myths about hypnosis and how it can or can't be real, and you're under somebody's control, and isn't that amazing? And you can help people stop smoking, and this is how is it people can hallucinate while they're hypnotized, and it's just a different response. I've been doing it for years, so I've seen and heard these different responses. I'll tell you one of these right now before I continue. I work a lot in Canada, and when I'm going back and forth to Canada, the immigration folks, American and Canadians, they can get a little hostile with you, and it's their job to try to ferret out if people are, trying to do something untoward in other countries and whatever. So they question you. If you tell them you're a magician, and I've done this before, they're like, "Oh, show me a trick." It's almost like a command. It's like, prove to me you're a magician. If I tell them I'm a hypnotist, depending on what gig I'm doing, their eyes shift. They go, "Oh, really? Can you help me, stop smoking? Can you do this? Can you do that?" It's just a different thing. It's just, lay people, they have more of an appreciation for hypnosis, by and large, than magic. I'm not saying that magic doesn't have an appreciation with these people. It's just a different response. It also increases your perceived value. Because if you're a hypnotist, you understand how the mind works, and people understand, they at least understand that. They may not understand how it works, but they know you're working with people's minds, and they know that it's not trickery, it's manipulation of the mind. So instantly, your perceived value goes way up. Also, typically, you make more money per gig. I've done, corporate holiday parties and things, and college shows and high school shows, and that's primarily what I'm talking about. And by and large, the hypnotist will get a higher paycheck per gig. I'm not talking about like an illusionist. I'm talking about like a one-man act. Hypnotists can usually command a lot more money. Also, if you want to expand your territory and go beyond, like, maybe you live in the middle of Iowa and there's not a lot going on out in Iowa, for example. A lot of the towns are small, everything's spread way out, and you want to expand your territory and make more money. Maybe you want to fly to Cincinnati or fly to San Francisco or fly to New York City to do a gig. And flying with props, it can be really, really tough. Props can get damaged, props can get lost. Props, stuff happens. And when you're a hypnotist, you can fly with zero props. If you feel like bringing your own microphone like I do, you can bring your own microphone. If you want to use their microphone when you get there, you can. If you want to use music, you can, bring an iPod with you or whatever. It's just so much easier. So you can fly, get off the plane. You don't have to worry about checking bags. So you save money that way. It's just so much less stress if you're going to fly to a gig. Also, if you're doing a small show or a big show, it's no problem. 20 people to 2,000 people, no problem at all. My first corporate hypnosis show was for about 40 people. Had a rockin' show, had a great time. I've also done shows for 2,000 people. A couple years ago, I live near Buffalo, New York, as I said. And a couple of years ago, we had President Obama come, and he visited, and he spoke on campus, and it was like some political stuff. He spoke to the kids, whatever. And it was right around the time that the freshman orientation of the new batch of freshmen were coming in. And the University of Buffalo, they hire me, usually two times a year for like the last 3 or 4 years. So I've been with them a lot. And they had me come in, and usually they have me do a show. It's like maybe for like 100 people, like an activities night. 100 people show up or whatever in their small little theaters, and we have a rockin' show. In this case, they wanted me to do something for their incoming freshmen. They had it outside, and it was literally 2,000 people in the audience, and it was great. I wish I thought to tape the darn thing and put demo videos up on my website, because it was a fun show. having, being in front of 2,000 people performing a rocking show, it's a rush. Now, if I'd been trying to do a briefcase show for 2,000 people in a college setting, it would have been really, really tough. Not saying it would have been impossible. I don't want to step on toes, but it just would have been really tough for 2,000 people and trying to haul all this equipment if you wanted to bring a bigger show. It was just glorious. It was so much fun. So you can do a lot bigger gigs. You've got more flexibility without having to worry about angles or anything. It's also another income stream. Say you've some magicians, they get I've got certain corporate groups. They've brought me in like 3 or 4 times, and every time they bring me in, they want me to bring in a different show. So if you've got a stage hypnosis show, you've got a different option you can offer them. So it's another income stream for you. And as I said before, you have 0 angle problems. You're not going to get caught, which is just a godsend if you've been in situations, because I've done them. I've done a lot of birthday party shows. I go to set up for a birthday party show, and the kids are running around. I'm trying to get them out of the room. The parents are like, "Oh, go watch the magician while he's setting up." The parents just want a break, and it's just, it's so much stress. Corporate groups. I'll be setting up for a corporate job. People come over and start poking at props. Corporate people, they got $2,000 suits on. They're like little kids. They want to poke around and sneak around too. It's the same thing. So stage hypnosis eliminates all of that. So moving on. Now let's consider what is stage hypnosis. Because some of you watching this, you may have different ideas about stage hypnosis. Stage hypnosis, as I define it, is using techniques to bypass the critical factor of the human mind in order to induce trance in volunteers in an entertaining and engaging manner to entertain audiences of all ages and sizes. So again, what I'm talking about here, this is not play acting. This is the real thing, real hypnosis. I've been doing hypnosis for about 10 years now. About half the amount of time I've been doing professional magic, and hypnosis is amazing. I've helped people, get over phobias. I've helped people stop smoking. I've helped people reduce their weight. I've helped people stop panic attacks. Hypnosis, when used properly, is powerful. When you're on stage with somebody and you're hypnotizing them, and you have them open their eyes, and they see the entire audience as cats, like I do, and they start giggling and laughing, and they're petting people on their heads. I mean, this is really cool stuff. They're doing what's called a positive hallucination. They think the audience is changing into cats. You tell them that they forget the number 6, so they count up their fingers. They got 11, and they're baffled and they're confused by this, and it's really funny and engaging, and it's amazing. Again, this is not play acting. I've harped on this several times in this webinar already, but there's some magicians out there, some old school magicians. I know Doc Hilford talks about this, where you do a stage hypnosis-like show where you're basically whispering stage instructions to people and getting them to play along and act for the people. And that was not what I'm talking about. This is real hypnosis. We have bypassed the critical factors. So the people up on stage, they feel compelled to do what I ask them to do, and they really believe that they're seeing the things that they think they're seeing and all that. I mean, it's really cool stuff. What makes it amazing, entertaining, and engaging is the fact that the people who are experiencing this, there's real phenomenon going on. They're not just acting, because what's the fun in that? So what markets respond best to stage hypnosis? This is not a complete list, but these are the ones that I've done a lot of. High schools, post-prom or after-grad lock-ins. And the idea, for those of you who don't know, a post-prom or an after-grad party is just like it says. After the prom, the kids get dressed up, they go dance. And a lot of schools, they have school-sponsored or parent PTA-sponsored after-prom parties where they go and they play games, they have food, they have bounce houses and entertainment, and it's a lock-in event. They keep them locked up from about 11 o'clock at night until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. The idea to keep them off the streets so they're not drinking, they don't get hurt, driving a car and getting into an accident. And also keeps them safe from doing something they might regret 9 months later. And after grad parties, the same basic concept. After graduation, they go to a sponsored event. They're locked in. They're not allowed to leave once they're signed in. And they'll bring in a stage hypnosis show to draw more kids into the event, first of all, and entertain the kids, too. And it's a lot of fun. Daytime assembly programs, just like I said. Usually with a daytime assembly program, they're going to want educational content to justify taking time off from daily studies and so forth. I'll talk more about that later on. Fundraisers, say the school football team needs the uniforms. Sometimes they'll have a school fundraiser where they'll sell tickets and get people to come in the auditorium, get 500, 600, 700 people into the auditorium and have a rockin' show, and they raise money for their sports teams or for the band for a trip or whatever. Reward programs, say the students, after final exams are over and they're exhausted and everything, sometimes the schools will bring me in to do a reward program, just for fun program. Now, granted, in high schools, at least in the Northeast where I perform the most often, reward programs are getting harder and harder to book because, again, teens are jaded. I've been to schools where they try to bring in like an illusionist or a comedian, and maybe the comedian does something off color and it offends people, or they do an illusionist and kids are jaded because they want to see what's inside that trick box. So they do a mentalism show and it's not visible and the kids just aren't engaged and they start talking and whooping and yelling. I've seen it. I've seen YouTube videos of magicians crashing and burning in these events, and not to say that it can't be done. I've done it, but again, this is all about finding an easier way, and stage hypnosis programs are so much fun for groups like this because it is so interactive, and so it just appeals to teens because it allows them the chance to be the stars of the show, and that's really what they want. And there's more markets, but those are the big ones in high school. Fairs and festivals, just like how it sounds. You've got all the craft shows and the tractor pulls and the cotton candy machines and everything, and they bring in different shows to entertain people. And they'll very often bring in a stage hypnosis show. And again, what's great about a stage hypnosis show is that you can pretty much do them anywhere, and it's a big draw too. People are fascinated by this stuff. Cruise ships. I remember sending a couple of years ago. I remember sending a copy of one of my stage hypnosis shows to my friend Paul Romehaney. He's the one who does the Charlie Chaplin act. He's the editor and of Vanish magazine. Great guy. He's been a good friend of mine for many, many years. And I sent him a copy of my stage hypnosis show, and he took one look at it and goes, "Oh, this show would rock in the cruise show environment." So that's an option for you too. I've not done a cruise ship yet. I just haven't had the opportunity to for a lot of different reasons. Corporate, holiday parties, retreats, that kind of thing. They're looking for entertainment, and they really like interactive. I've talked to HR directors all the time, and what they don't like about DJs is people are just listening to music. They're just sitting there talking. It's not a communal experience. They're looking for something to engage everybody and have everybody interacting with each other to promote that group dynamic atmosphere. So corporates, it's a great way to get in with a stage hypnosis show. So moving right along, here's what you need to do with stage hypnosis in 4 steps. Step number 1, learn how the mind works and how to hypnotize people. That's a given. Number 2, step 2, use modern techniques that captivate 21st century audiences. Number 3, step 3, develop an appropriate show that is fast, fun, and safe for multiple markets. And finally, step 4, add an educational component for even more dollars. And almost nobody is doing this, and nobody's teaching this. I haven't seen anybody teach this stuff yet. So, step 1, let's get into this a little bit more detail. Does a stage hypnosis training give you a complete understanding of how the mind and thus hypnosis works? I've taken 3 different stage hypnosis trainings, and the first one was an abomination. It was absolutely horrible. To protect my bank account and litigation, I'm not going to mention the gentleman's name, but he's based out of the UK. It was just a dreadful stage hypnosis training. I got nothing out of it whatsoever. The second one I took was very good, but it didn't have enough detail. The third one I took was really quite good and allowed me to actually go out there and start doing shows, but it only taught me one methodology of how to do this stuff, and it didn't give me enough information in order to truly understand how this stuff worked. They told me how to do it. You do this stuff, it'll work, and people were asking me questions, and I didn't really know how to answer their questions. So it was a partial education, but not a great one. 2, does the stage hypnosis training give you a can't-fail complete show? Most of the stage hypnosis trainings I've done and the books that I've read and the research that I've done, they give you like a slew of skits. They give you like 50 or 60 skits, maybe a couple hundred skits. They tell you to put together your own show. And again, it's like putting together a magic show. It's got to be routined properly, a lot of nuances. So that's a question you want to ask if you're considering stage hypnosis training. Does it give you a can't-fail complete show from beginning to end? Does the stage hypnosis training give you all the hidden secrets to guarantee a successful show regardless of the gig circumstances? Of course, we're talking about trouble at the gig. You get there and you're expecting a certain amount of people. A different amount of people shows up. Maybe there's lighting considerations. And, the venue's changed. I remember I did one show one time where I get to the gig, and usually when you do a stage hypnosis show, you've got a committee of people, volunteers, whatever, 10, 12, 15, 20 volunteers sitting in a row of chairs facing one direction, facing the audience. Well, I get to this gig, and there's a really, really weird venue where I had to have one row of people facing one side of the audience and another row of people facing the other side of the audience. So I basically had 2 different shows going on. We had the audience, they're facing each other. It was just really weird. So you want a stage hypnosis training that's going to teach you how to handle anything weird that may come your way at the gig. So step number 2 is the training using modern techniques. So many old trainings used induction techniques that took 20 minutes or more to induce trance, which is really boring. you know, it, when you're talking about an induction technique, it's how we induce hypnosis. Certain words, certain mental processes, things we ask the volunteers to think about or do, which will induce the hypnotic state. And again, you know, a lot of people out there, Kreskin, I understand, does hypnosis programs, and from last I heard, he was still doing a very long induction. It's called the progressive relaxation induction. It takes a long time where you talk about relaxing the mind and staring at lights and that sort of thing, and you're literally boring the mind in a trance. The problem is with these, you know, with day-to-day audiences, you know, in the 21st century, they're not going to stand for that. They want things quick. They want things fast. They've got instant entertainment at their smartphones, and their people's attention spans are like minuscule compared to what they were years ago. So a 20-minute or longer hypnotic trance induction is not going to fly with modern audiences. Just not going to work. So does the training give you multiple cutting-edge options for techniques? Like I said, the best training I ever took for stage hypnosis, and I've taken several, gave me one technique to induce trance. And it was a great technique, and I still use it. But there are certain situations that have come up where I've needed additional techniques. I've had to go out and find those additional techniques myself. So the best training is going to be the one that's going to give you multiple cutting-edge options for techniques. Does the training also cover music, blocking, show structure, and more? Again, a lot of the trainings I took, they gave you the toolkit. They're like, here's your induction, you know, here's your skits, and I'll put it all together. And there's so much more than that. You know, you want to talk about blocking, acting, angles, that sort of stuff. Not angles as far as getting busted, but simply angles, staging things properly for maximum enjoyment and visibility for the audience, to make it a more theatrical experience. So, moving on to step 3, you want the show to be safe and appropriate for all ages. No off-color or sexual skits. I was doing a show, my very first college show, it was like 7 or 8 years ago, I forget. And after the show was over, we did a rockin' show. It was a lot of fun. And I always do a clean show because I never know who's going to be my audience, and it's just a better way to guarantee bookings. And when people hear college shows, they think about Animal House or Accepted or all these wild and crazy things going on. And the truth of the matter is, despite how college kids act, the vast majority of the time, college kids still want a clean show. And especially the person who books you, they still want a clean show too. You know, the student committee advisor or the activities advisor, you know, they still want a clean show too. So anyway, getting back to my first college experience, college show experience, I finished the show, and a student comes up to me, and he's like, you know, 20, 21 years old. He is like a freshman or a sophomore in college. He's on the student newspaper. Want to interview me, ask me a lot of questions. How'd you get into this? What about this? What about that? And it was fine. And after the interview was over, he said, thank you for not being creepy. We've had hypnotists here before, and they're kind of creepy, and we don't like them. So that was really cool to see. And I've got other stories I could tell you about that too, but I won't. So you don't want anything off-color or sexual skits, and especially, you know, in this day and age where people have telephones out and smartphones and taking video and putting up it online, you know, and if you're doing a college stage hypnosis show, on one day and you decide to do some sexual material, you know, maybe you got it okayed, or maybe you're doing a comedy club and they want a raunchy show. And then like the next day you're doing Johnny's birthday party and somebody posts a video of you doing that show at the comedy club. It could ruin your reputation for, you know, family audiences. Also, no suggestions from the audience. So what I mean by this is the best hypnotic training I ever took in terms of stage had a lot of flaws with it. One of the techniques I was told is if you want to stretch out the length of your show and make your show longer, is take suggestions from the audience. In other words, have them write down things you want the hypnotized people to do. So I tried that at an early gig, my first year of performing. And I was getting responses like, you know, make two men kiss each other, you know, make somebody act like a horse, that kind of stuff. It was absolutely horrible. They were trying to get me to make the coworkers who were hypnotized, because it was at a corporate gig, do very embarrassing things. And it was terrible, and I wouldn't do it. Also, you don't want to do any dangerous skits. In hypnosis, in particular, there's a skit called the human bridge. It's basically full-body catalepsy. And basically what that means is they'll hypnotize somebody so their entire body is rigid. All the muscles are stiff and rigid like a bridge. And they'll put the person's head on the edge of a chair. And they'll put their feet on the edge of another chair. And the rest of their body in between, the whole middle, is unsupported. And then sometimes the hypnotist will even stand on this person being supported by this human bridge. And it is so dangerous. It looks really impressive, but it's really, really dangerous. You don't want to do it. Then you want to analyze your show from the top to the bottom to guarantee the hypnotic suggestions cannot be bent or turned into something harmful. What I mean by this is, I was going to do a show one time for a religious group, and this guy comes up to me, and he goes, are you going to do that skit where you let people from the audience shout out suggestions, and they turn them into the hypnotist, and then whatever the person in the audience suggests, the person who was hypnotized, they do it. I said, absolutely not. He's like, why? It's really funny. I go, because it's dangerous. Suppose somebody from the audience says, okay, the person who's sitting there hypnotized, you think you're Superman. And the person might get up on top of the chair and jump off the chair thinking they can fly and so forth. Not that that would necessarily actually happen, but it is a possibility. So people from the audience, they don't have the training knowing how to word a suggestion properly to guarantee the person's not going to do anything that's going to harm them or frighten them or do anything bad. So you got to make sure that the show's going to be safe and appropriate. That guarantees repeat bookings. That guarantees you a good reputation, and it's best for everybody all around. And people will say to you too, if you're doing a safe show that's not dangerous and is humorous but clean, people respect the fact that it takes more skill to do a clean show as opposed to a dirty show, and that's just how it is. This day and age with political correctness and everything. Step number 4, educational shows skyrocket earning potential. You can make so much more money. Because basically, if you're delivering educational content, now you're a speaker. Now you're giving value. Now you're giving suggestions and techniques to the attendees to improve their lives or whatever it is you're trying to do. The market for educational hypnosis shows is huge and largely untapped by magicians. And what I mean by this is an educational stage hypnosis show is by and large going to be middle school, high school, or colleges. You can't do a hypnosis show in elementary school audiences for a lot of reasons I'm not going to get into right now. It'll just take too long to explain. So anyway, so you're restricted to do educational programs for middle, high school, and colleges. Now here's the thing. A lot of magicians will avoid high schools for the reasons that I talked about before. Teenagers, they can heckle you, whatever. So as a result, and I noticed this about 7 or 8 years ago when the economy in the United States went south. I saw a lot of the corporate, and I have people who are in the industry, a lot of people in corporate speaking, a lot of these high-dollar speakers, they were seeing their corporate dollars drying up temporarily, so they got into high school speaking in order to maintain their income. And so as a result, you've got a market where it's being satisfied by speakers, and they get up there and they talk, and maybe they're funny and engaging or whatever, but there's nothing visual going on. It's not interactive. They're speakers. That's what they do. They get up there and they speak. So, and like I said, a lot, and even magicians who you would think, oh, so-and-so, they got to do high school gigs. I'm not going to say his name, but there's a magician out there, and he's mostly a marketer of high-end products and routines out there, and also trainings and such, that if I said his name, you'd know his name instantly. And he's released a lot of great stuff over the years, really good props, really good routines, got a great reputation in the industry. And him and I were talking on the phone one time, and I happened to mention high school gigs. And he's like, oh, you can have high school gigs. No way. I don't want that kind of stress. And even he avoided them. So a lot, compared to other markets, compared to elementary schools, compared to daycares, compared to libraries, compared to family shows, even compared to corporate holiday parties, middle and high schools are a market that, comparatively speaking, are being ignored by a lot of magicians. So there's a lot of income potential for you to do educational programs for them. And you can also literally help save lives. I do shows on bullying and drug awareness and all kinds of hot topics, and I've had people tell me afterwards how I've impacted them. Just today, I was doing a program here in California, and the kids afterwards were talking to me about how much my program has impacted their lives, and it's so it's very humbling if you can have a kid, hear your message and they make a decision to stay away from drugs, not to go to that party that the friends are going to. They make a decision to stand up for themselves and go get help if they're being bullied or what have you. Because in this day and age in the United States, kids are being bullied so bad, especially in cyberspace, that some of them are committing suicide. So with a program like this, you can actually help save lives. It's very humbling. My experience in educational shows is, again, it gives what you're doing meaning. It gives what you're doing a purpose. You're not just a guy or a girl up there doing tricks or doing disembodied skits. Everything has a flow to it. Everything has a purpose. And I noticed that, I've talked a lot on this webinar how the fact that I'm a 6-figure-a-year performer, over $100,000 each year. And I did not become a $100,000 a year performer until I focused on educational programs. Then my income skyrocketed. It almost doubled from one year to the next because I focused all my marketing and all my energy on delivering high-quality, high-end educational assembly programs, primarily in schools, and educational and motivational programs for corporate groups, too. Educational programs are a way to get so much more money into your pocket. So, moving on now, here's why I love school shows. It's a deep market. Proms, grad parties, fundraisers, assemblies, so much. There's a lot of different things. Daytime assemblies need educational material, and I've talked about that, why that's such a great thing. You're a speaker who's delivering content, and you're interactive, which makes you instantly unique, and it instantly commands a higher payday. Hot topics include bullying, respect, drug awareness. Again, they're topics that are never going to go away. And if you walk in and you can do a captivating show that delivers real content on one or more of these topics that engages the audience and hooks them and pulls them in, you can write your own checks. It's fantastic. And here's another thing too. I mean, I do a lot of corporate shows, but my favorite hypnosis shows are high school and colleges, because kids are so easy to hypnotize. I mean, you tell me you're a hypnotist, oh wow, and you see their eyes shift, and they're halfway there already. It's really, really cool. So it's a lot of fun too. I've done trade shows, I've done daycares, I've done birthday parties, I've done fairs and festivals, I've done corporate holiday parties, I've done motivational programs for people of all sizes, or groups of all sizes and ages and markets and niches all over North America. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that a high school hypnosis show is the world's easiest thing to do, as far as based on my experience. Fantastic. So here's what you want to do to tie hypnosis into educational talks. You want to look at the concepts of your talk, and and break it down. Like, what are the things you're gonna talk about? And most speakers will say you don't want to do more than 3 to 5 basic concepts in your talk to prevent the audience from being overwhelmed. We're talking primarily, usually, a 45-minute to a 60-minute show here. So you want to find hypnosis skits to illustrate that concept, that metaphor. So using magic as an example, when I do a motivational program for corporate groups, for example, I'll talk about I'll talk about a concept, and I'll borrow a dollar bill from somebody in the audience. And the concept is asking for what you want. If you want to ask your colleagues for help, or if you want to ask for a raise, whatever it is, asking for what you want is the basic concept. So I get the dollar bill, and I said, how did I get this person's dollar bill? I asked for it. Okay, great. Then I take the dollar bill and I fold it up and I do a $100 bill switch. If you want to know my handling, my preferred handling is Money Morph by Kevin King, excuse me. And I change it into a $20 bill and I give it to the guy. And I say, thank you for doing what I wanted. So it's a real quick example of how I take a magic trick and tie it into a concept. Well, with a hypnosis skit, you're doing the same basic thing. You're taking a specific hypnosis skit, looking at the concept of your talk, and tying it in so that you're not just there, okay, kids, don't do drugs, now let's do some fun hypnosis. You're making everything tie together. There's a point to it. So in scripting, you want to get the key points across in an efficient manner. So many times people over-explain things, and it turns into this like verbal mishmash in people's minds. I'll give you an example, again, using magic to illustrate what I'm talking about. I've got a volunteer up on stage, and I'm going to have him pick a card out of a deck of cards. We're going to do a card thing. And I tell them, I'm going to riffle through this is how I used to say it. I'm going to riffle through the cards. You're going to pick a card. I'm going to riffle through the cards. You're going to stop me. Whenever you say stop, I'll stop. And then you take the card on the half of the deck that you stopped me at. You're going to look at your card. And it just turns into verbal mishmash. So now my scripting is I hold the deck of cards up. Everybody can see it. You're going to pick a card. Tell me when to stop. I start riffling the cards. They say stop. Great. Take your card. So it becomes more efficient. The scripting, sometimes more words are not better. Sometimes if you want to tighten your scripting, you get the point across better, and it becomes less verbal mishmash in people's minds. Next, you want to use hypnosis to illustrate to teens how the mind works and tie in your talk's concepts. So, in other words, in the case of a drug awareness program, I will tell the kids how their mind works and give them some neat illustrations how this works, using hypnosis and everything to talk about that, and then I'll tie that in to talk about how people they fall into using drugs, because nobody wakes up in the day and they go, hey, I think I'll take some drugs and ruin my life. They fall into it because of peer pressure, social compliance, and all these subconscious mental processes that are going on. I use hypnosis to demonstrate these mental processes, and then I teach the kids some different ways to safeguard against these mental processes so they don't fall into these habits and these situations when they're out and about in their day-to-day lives. Next, moving right along, I'm going to acknowledge something for you. This sounds like a lot of work, but wait. My goal for you, everybody watching this webinar, is to learn a complete 60-minute entertaining stage hypnosis show from start to finish. The pre-talk, the induction, the skits, the blocking, everything from start to finish. Handing you a complete show from start to finish on a silver platter. My goal for you is to learn effective techniques for small and large groups. Different techniques, not just one technique to hypnotize groups, but different techniques based on different needs. I'm going to cover blocking, acting, show structure, and so much more. That's another one of my goals. Next, I want you to have a complete training and understanding and implementing modern 21st century stage hypnosis techniques. A lot of updates that are out there, things that will enable you to captivate a group and have them booking you, coming back, year after year after year. I've got certain high school clients, they bring me in to do their post-grad party. I've got some clients, they brought me in literally, I just booked one, this is the 8th year in a row. 8th year in a row they bring me in. And to have that kind of commitment from a client, that kind of yearly commitment and stability for your business, it's hard to get unless you've got a really high-quality show, Also, my goal for you is to learn, in addition to a regular 60-minute stage hypnosis show, is to also learn an educational stage hypnosis show that was co-developed by myself, a Navy research scientist, and a clinical psychologist with 30 years experience. I brought to them, and these are people that I've known in the business in hypnosis for many years. I brought to them my show. I showed it to them, and they go, "Oh, that's fantastic. You can make it even stronger by doing this, this, and this." And they give me a lot of suggestions to make these things even stronger, to give the kids more tools to help them safeguard even more against thought processes that lead them down the wrong path. And people love that. And when you've got a show that when you're pitching it to schools as an educational, interactive, fun show that will teach kids valuable thought processes and keep them safe and help potentially save their lives, and you can advertise that the show was developed by a clinical psychologist with 30 years experience, I mean, that's powerful. That's a really powerful thing. Those are my goals for you. So here's what I want you to have. I want you to have result number 1, a clear understanding of proven stage and demonstrational hypnosis shows and techniques. Result number 2, the ins and outs of school assembly shows, educational concepts, different submarkets, and much, much more. Then a clear understanding of how to effectively present the material as a pro during a stage hypnosis show, a college or a high school gig, corporate holiday party meeting. Basically, you're going to learn after this training how to do a show for different markets. And I'll give you a lot of tips about how to, alter things and everything. But basically, I do the same. I've taken a lot of effort to make the show that I do the same show I do for multiple markets with some very minor tweaks and adjustments. Result number 4, a clear understanding of both the regular for fun show and the high school educational show. So you're not just going to have the knowledge of, okay, here's the show, I follow the script, I say these words, and I'll get this result. But what's going on, the thought process behind it. Some people are asking you questions afterwards, like, oh, what about this and what about that? You can understand and explain it to them. You'll have a much firmer knowledge base, so you can answer those questions to people afterwards rather than just regurgitating a script and hoping nobody asks you anything else beyond that script. Result number 5, tools, tips, and techniques to actually sell the stuff and skyrocket your earnings by doing less shows for more money like I do. So with all that in mind, introducing the Earn a Six-Figure Income Complete 3-Day Stage and Educational Hypnosis Training. I believe this is the best live course available to teach stage hypnosis techniques and booking educational shows to magicians, performing artists, or virtually anyone. You can come into this with no hypnosis experience whatsoever. In fact, it's actually better if you don't. You don't have to unlearn any bad habits you may have picked up from inferior trainings. This course is going to give you step-by-step instruction to shave 10 years off the learning curve. This stuff's a lot of fun. If you don't have this course and you're just another person offering magic tricks, and magic tricks are great. I still do magic tricks. But hypnosis is real and instantly captivates people. It gives you another tool, allows you to sell another show at a higher price point. And additionally, this course goes way beyond what anyone else is offering. Most stage hypnosis trainings say, okay, here's your pre-talk, here's your stage of hypnosis induction, here's a little bit about show structure, and here's a book of skits, and now go off and have fun. What you're going to get from me is you're going to get my entire show structure, from skit to skit to skit, how they all blend together, the overall arcing theme. You're going to get my pre-talk, you're going to get my stage show induction. You're also going to get another stage show induction that I've adapted and developed on my own to make the stage show inductions even more powerful. You're also going to get a lot of instant inductions and rapid inductions that you can do one-on-one or for smaller groups, or you can do in the middle of a show to add flavor and texture to your show. So you're going to learn a lot of different induction techniques, ways to induce trance very, very rapidly and quickly and theatrically, and most importantly, safely. And you're also going to get, because I don't think anybody else is doing this. I've not heard of anybody else offering at a basic stage hypnosis show training an educational show from start to finish. Nobody else is offering that. So here we go. Stage hypnosis show training, six-figure income training, module number 1, the 60-minute show. I've got that up there as a value of $297. Honestly, I have not done a $297 stage hypnosis show in many, many years. When I first started doing this stuff, I did a couple of grad parties for like $250, private grad parties, like somebody's house, for like 15 or 20 people in somebody's living room or backyard. But since then, that's when I was just cutting my teeth and getting used to this stuff. But these days, the lowest I'll do a hypnosis show for is like $800. There's people out there earning a lot more than me. That's fine. But I'll do a stage hypnosis show for anywhere from $800 to $1,400 to $2,400. Well, my average show gig fee probably around the $1,200 mark. That's probably my average fee, and that's real. There's hypnotists out there saying make $2,500 per gig, and depending on your market, maybe you're able to do that. But I'm talking real numbers here from my own experience. So based on a fee of a minimal for me, $800 per gig, $297 to learn a 60-minute show. That's a bargain. That's a bargain. That should be a lot higher. Module number 2, the educational show instruction. I have never done an educational high school stage hypnosis show. I've never done a hypnosis show, educational show for high schools. Sorry, I got some technical issues going on here. For less than $900. So that's really a higher price point. Module number 3, stage hypnosis training. That's also listed as $297. When I first started learning stage hypnosis training, the basic training I took, I paid about $1,000 for it. So it should really go. A lot higher than that. Module number 4, multiple techniques toolkit. It's a value of $297. And again, it should be a lot higher than $297 because it took me many years and a lot of experimentation and thousands of dollars of additional training and clinical hypnosis to learn these techniques. Module number 4, booking educational shows. Like I said, booking educational shows is a lot of money. It's really cool. Basically, it's something that I don't do for a low fee anymore at all. So it's a really high dollar value. We got that down there for $397. Also, I'm offering you lifetime email support. I'm not just going to turn you loose. If you have any questions afterwards, too bad you're on your own. But it's going to be something that you're going to be able to contact me for years and years afterwards in order to have any questions, clarification, troubleshooting, that kind of thing. So the entire value today is $1,982. If you add up $297 for Module 1 and $297 for Module 2, $297 for Module 3, $397 for Modules 4, 5, and lifetime email support, the total value is $1,982. I know some of you watching this may not be able to see those dollar amounts on the side. It's just a technical thing with the webinar. I'll worry about it later. But the total value today is $1,982. However, you're not going to pay that. My original cost that I was going to do for this was $1,295. There's another stage hypnosis training out there, and he offers it for $1,295, and I can verify it's a good stage hypnosis training. It's rock solid. It's really good. But you're not going to pay that. You're not going to pay $1,295. It's just $795 for my stage hypnosis show training. Why am I doing my stage hypnosis show training for a lot lower price? I'm doing it because, I'll be quite honest with you, I don't have the name recognition that these other stage hypnosis trainers have. I've got the experience. I've done hundreds and hundreds of stage hypnosis shows. I've hypnotized literally thousands and thousands of people, both clinically and on stage. I've got 20 years of professional experience, 11 years of full-time experience. I am also a board-certified hypnotist through the National Guild of Hypnotists. And I'm also a certified instructor of hypnosis through the National Guild of Hypnotists, meaning I'm qualified to teach people this stuff. But I don't have the name recognition. So simply, I'm offering this training at a lower price point, simply because as my reputation grows and people see the quality of this stuff, supply and demand, the price is going to go up. But for those of you getting in on this now, this first training, it's you're going to save. It's just $795. So here's how to do this. Register now. The training dates are July 10th through July 12th, 2015. The location is going to be in Buffalo, New York. This is a live training. This is not going to be a video training. To learn hypnosis properly, I believe you got to learn it live. You'll be hypnotizing people. You yourself will be hypnotized. It'll be a lot of fun. You'll understand this. It's the hands-on model of doing things. The training is going to be held at my hypnosis clinic in Niagara Falls, New York. You can, if you're flying in, you can fly into Buffalo, New York. It's one of the major airports. The flight fees are reasonable, easy to fly into. We're going to have the training at my hypnosis clinic in Niagara Falls, which is about 20 minutes outside of Buffalo. As the training gets closer, and once you register, I'll give you the addresses and everything, and make it really easy to get to it. So what you want to do is you want to PayPal $7.95 to chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net. If you go through PayPal, you're protected. If I know I've bought things through PayPal before, and the company turned out, they did, it got lost in the mail, or it turned out to be some overseas company that had a less than stellar reputation. I was able to go through PayPal and get my money back and everything. So you know that going through PayPal, you're protected. So PayPal $7.95 to chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net to register. So what to do? Send $7.95 via PayPal to chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net to secure your spot right now. Or you can call me personally at 716-940-8963 with your credit card number to secure your spot over the phone. Now, if you have any questions, I'm not trying to hide, email me. Email me at chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net. You can also call me at 716-940-8963. I've got two numbers. My office number is my booking number for school shows and performances and everything. That's my 800 number. But the number on the screen, the 940 number, that is my cell phone number. That is also the number I use for my clinical hypnosis. So if you call that number and you get a message that says Niagara Falls Hypnosis Center, you got the correct number. It's my cell phone number. It's the easiest way to reach me. That's why I'm giving that. So if you have any questions, you have any reservations, you want to find out more details, you just give me a call or email me. I'm very forthcoming about this. So this is going to be held in my office. I've got a nice office, but there's not a tremendous amount of space. So space is limited. Space is limited. Sign up today. Sign up today. Again, email chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net or call me at 716-940-8963 with any questions. Now, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to knock off $200, a special early bird offer. If you sign up before May 1st, 2015, you're going to save $200, just $495. I do that to encourage sign-ups now so I know how many people I can look forward to working with. Do it right now, just $495. PayPal it to chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net, or you can call me with your credit card number. I've had a lot of fun doing this wonderful webinar. We've had some technical issues there and everything, but I think it turned out okay. It's a new technology for me. I'm not much of a techie, but I really wanted to give a lot of information and just have a couple of paragraphs and talk about stage hypnosis. Having an in-depth webinar like this has enabled me to go into some deeper topics and really communicate to you, hopefully, just how much more fun stage hypnosis can be. And it opens up a whole new world for you, a whole new world of income possibilities, travel, make your life a lot easier. I still do magic, but I'm doing more and more hypnosis. I just find it to be so much more fun for a lot of the reasons I talked about during this webinar. So sign up today, $495 to chrisjohnsoninfo@verizon.net, or call me at 716-940-8963 to secure your spot with a credit card. The training, once again, will be near Buffalo, New York. Buffalo, New York is a major airport, easy to fly into and easy to fly out of. The training will be held in person, live at my training center, at my hypnosis clinic in Niagara Falls, New York. So I do look forward to meeting you. I look forward to talking to you. My name is Chris Johnson. Thanks again so much. And if you want to pass on this webinar to folks that you may know, go ahead and do it. Forward the URL, the domain, beststagehypnosistraining.com to your friends, and spread the word, because this is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be a training unlike anything other. It's going to be a wonderful experience. So thank you, Godspeed, and have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.